changes happen in our lives, right? Sometimes we can notice them, sometimes some changes happen behind clouds, what we call clouded mutations, the theme of today's TED event. So I'm going to talk to you, as introduced, about artificial intelligence and machine learning, how it can change our lives. So when I say this, what does it mean to you? Is it some kind of cyber entities taking over human civilization, or is it Siri, which will tell you a joke when you ask for it, or is it Alexa, to whom you say, Alexa, mere sapno ki rani kab, and the song suddenly plays. It's such a fantastic experience. Today morning also I had. Every day I have it. So, anyway, the basic imagination is that it is some kind of a machine. Because the word machine is there, so some kind of a machine is what is there in all our minds. How does it help us in situations like the pandemic which we are facing these days? Over 2 years, wave after wave it is coming, changes are happening in the virus, and suddenly it becomes a big spreading disease. Then there is all kinds of shutdowns and colleges closed and so on. Then again there is a lean period, and again some change comes. So this is happening in nature, right? How does it happen in our world? So in our world, it happens like this, that we have, this is an example of a pathogen here shown, which will bind to our cells, our body cells, and that's how it enters. And in nature, the little dots that you see on the surface, they are called virulence proteins. They bind to the receptors on the host cell, which you see at the bottom, and many of these they are also proteins. And they bind, and that's how the handshake starts. It starts without our knowing. We don't know. We can't see them. They are so small to our eyes. We only realize when we get the symptoms. That's when we realize it. By that time, the fellow has already come inside and well established. The similar thing happens with the coronavirus as well. It's a much simpler system. Virus is a much simpler system. But it also has its blueprint, the genome, which happens to be RNA in this case, with the 4 letters AUGC. And you can see those little spikes jutting out of the protein, ready to come and bind to the cell receptor, which is exposed to us. So what does a vaccine do? A vaccine will block exactly this step. That's what it is supposed to do. If it doesn't, then at least it will try to prevent the spread, which is what most vaccines are doing. And we are living in a remarkable time of beautiful biotechnology advances, genomic technology advances, and artificial intelligence and machine learning that has given us a vaccine in record time. Now this has opened the possibilities that we would be able to get new vaccines for other diseases as well. So if you want to build an AI machine learning algorithm like Siri or Alexa, then what do we do? What goes on? A lot of hard work goes on behind those clouds, unknown to the world. And that involves first getting the proper data, Everything is data. For the computer, everything is data, which includes authentic source, well verified, there are no issues of copyrights, and so on and so forth. Even when you are going to take a specific music, like that our young student played just now, his copyright should not be infringed, isn't it? It should be available, and it should not impact others. So all these considerations are given over there, and we exclude the partial things, the improperly recorded things, and so on. Then comes to the computer, it's all numbers. Information is given in numbers. So we have to do some calculations. And while doing these calculations, we have to find out what are the features which are informative. So when you want to make an algorithm like this, like teaching a child, this is a cat, not a dog, and this is a rickshaw, not a bicycle, but there are many similarities between the entities, you know. You can draw similarities as well. So the tool shouldn't get confused by the similarities or overwhelmed by that, unable to distinguish between the two. It shouldn't have that. So you need the informative features which will differentiate the two. And say cat is a cat, dog is a dog. And say rickshaw is a rickshaw and not a bicycle. So that is where most of our thinking and knowledge goes in, to extract that information and give it to the training. So they have to be trained, like a child has to be trained, like you are going to be trained. So unless you are trained, you cannot perform those jobs. So same here as well. And for training, we need a platform like this with computational neurons connected to each other. They look very beautifully round and know the perfect geometrical figures that we see. Whereas in biology, inside our brain are also neurons, but they are having many irregular shapes and they are connected, millions of connections. That's how our intelligence is so supreme compared to this computer intelligence over here. Now, what is the most important endpoint here? The most important endpoint is, after training, you have to test with the unseen data. Something like you are trained in the classroom studies, and then in the final exam, you have to answer unseen questions, isn't it? And that's where your performance is tested. And the same thing applies here as well. Now, when a new pathogen is identified somewhere in Germany, somewhere or in some other country, wherever it is, you do the genome sequencing, which is very fast to do now, very powerful, and then you apply this artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithm, identify the virulence factors quickly, and go for vaccine preparation. So it makes that much faster. Shown here is also the identification of the spike protein, which is now into the vaccines that we all have taken. We all have taken during our prevention from COVID virus. So that's what an AI ML can do. Pandemics will come and go. Pathogens will emerge, keep emerging. I have to be safe. You have to be safe. You have to be safe. And people outside this room also have to be safe. And people outside this country also has to be safe. People in Africa, Asia, everywhere have to be safe. So wherever pathogens arise, new pathogens arise, they have to immediately sequence their blueprints, genomes, apply ML, and there you get the start for preparing new vaccines. This is how to protect our health, prevent economic shutdowns, prevent job losses, and so on. So this is the continuous surveillance now we can do in order to get protected from these unknown pathogens from wherever they arise. Thank you for listening.